Welcome back to Criminal Law Defenses Explained. In today's episode, we'll explore the defense of necessity, often referred to as the lesser evil defense, which justifies unlawful actions taken to prevent greater harm. We'll examine its legal application, limits, and key case examples. Let's dive in and understand how necessity operates in the courtroom. What is the necessity defense in criminal law? The defense of necessity arises when a defendant argues that they had no choice but to break the law in order to prevent a greater harm. It is a balancing act where the harm avoided must be more serious than the unlawful act committed. The court looks at whether the defendant's actions were reasonable and proportionate given the circumstances. Necessity is an exceptional defense, not available in all situations, and the courts are careful in how they apply it. The defendant must show that their unlawful actions were both urgent and unavoidable. Now, let us explore two categories of necessity: private necessity and public necessity. Private necessity versus public necessity. Private necessity refers to situations where an individual acts to protect themselves or their property, while public necessity refers to actions taken to protect the community or the public at large. In either case, the harm prevented must outweigh the unlawful act. Case example: Re A. Conjoined twins, 2000. Let's look at Re A. Conjoined twins, 2000, one of the most important cases involving the defense of necessity. In this case, doctors sought legal permission to separate conjoined twins, knowing that one twin would not survive the operation. However, if the surgery were not performed, both twins would die. The court had to decide whether it was lawful to sacrifice one twin's life to save the other. The court ruled in favor of the doctors, justifying the operation under the defense of necessity. They held that the death of one twin was necessary to save the other, thus preventing the greater harm of losing both lives. The elements of necessity. For the defense of necessity to succeed, three key elements must be satisfied. First, there must be an imminent threat of serious harm. Second, the defendant's actions must be aimed at preventing that harm. And third, there must be no reasonable legal alternative available. Case example: R versus Dudley and Stevens, 1884. Now, let's examine the famous case of R versus Dudley and Stevens, 1884. Four sailors were stranded at sea without food or water. After many days, they killed and ate one of the crew members to survive. At trial, they claimed the defense of necessity, arguing that it was necessary to kill the boy to save the others. However, the court rejected their argument and convicted them of murder, ruling that necessity could not justify taking an innocent life to save others. This case demonstrates that while necessity may apply in some cases, it has limits, particularly when it involves causing harm to others. Necessity in modern law. In more modern times, necessity has been applied in various contexts, from environmental protests to medical emergencies. But courts remain cautious, ensuring the defense is only applied in truly exceptional circumstances. Case example: Southwark London Borough Council versus Williams, 1971. In Southwark London Borough Council versus Williams, 1971, homeless families argued that they had no choice but to squat in vacant houses because they had nowhere else to live. They claimed the defense of necessity. However, the court rejected this argument, emphasizing that necessity could not be used to justify breaking the law in these circumstances. The court noted that allowing such a defense would open the door to widespread lawbreaking and undermine property rights. The limits of the necessity defense. As we've seen, necessity is a narrow defense, and courts are reluctant to apply it unless all the elements are strictly satisfied. Even when there is an urgent need, the defense will not be available if a legal alternative exists or if the harm caused outweighs the harm prevented. Necessity is not an excuse for reckless or intentional harm. It's only available when the defendant's conduct is a last resort, and they are genuinely choosing the lesser of two evils. In summary, the defense of necessity can be a powerful tool, but only when used under the right circumstances. Whether it is a life or death medical decision, as in Re A, or a desperate survival situation like Dudley and Stevens, necessity is all about balancing harms and ensuring that the unlawful act is truly justifiable. It's a fascinating area of law where moral questions often intersect with legal principles. Thank you for watching today's episode of Criminal Law Defenses Explained. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our next episode, where we will cover another criminal law defense, duress. Drop a comment below with any case suggestions or topics you would like us to explore. See you next time.